Welcome to the launch of issue 17, the music issue, and we had great fun with all the submissions that arrived. There was quite a variety, but there's quite a clutch of them which looked at sort of the nostalgia of music from people's past and people reliving their teenage years through the music that they enjoyed. But you'll see, in fact, in the issue, we've got composers from Stockhausen, Beethoven, through to the Pet Shop Boys. So there's quite a wide range of music in it. And we're offering you this tremendous multimedia experience as well of using your QR code or your phone to have a listen to music. And we're really grateful to Chris Hardy and Little Machine, and to the composer Mark David Hadley for allowing us to use their music in the links. We've got in this issue Sarah Mansaganian, who's our featured poet, and again you'll be able to link through to recordings of her reading and discussing the three poems, which are really interesting to include because they explore the world of cello making. So it explored both the craft and the poetry and the music. And we've got, again, brilliant poetry, reviews, a thought-provoking essay by Richard Skinner, and a fascinating interview with Mary and Niall Campbell. So we're grateful to all the poets, musicians, photographers, and reviewers who've made this edition sing in the way that it has. So thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll celebrate the music in all our lives and the words that gives voice by listening to some poets. So I'm going to introduce my poets. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room to see if my third one has arrived, which they haven't yet. But our first poet is Sarah Mansaganian. She's an award-winning poet, and Lemonade in the Armenian Quarter inspired a song cycle. And her work's been in Poetry News Review, The Rialto, Poetry Wales, Poetry Island Review, The North, Magma, and 2024 Poetry Archive now. So if you want to unmute Sarah and read us your poem, that'd be great.
Thank you. So this poem is on page 17, the number 17 issue, and it's set in our house at the beginning of COVID, where my husband, a cello maker, is working on a cello front, and our daughter is next door in her bedroom. 1st of May 2020. Ursula plays the piano in her room for the first time in 7 years. Her fingers send the remembered shapes of Chopin through the workshop wall, where her dad brushes thin glue into rough sawn F-holes in a cello front. The early growth's too tender for a knife. He feeds the grain until its edge can tolerate the weight of his blade, become a curve, a circle, a Stradivarian nick. The buttery stripes of spruce hold the strength of Maytime in the Alps, the rushed expanse of leaf and stem and North Italian sky. Or those spacious mountain summers, chaperoned by narrow autumn days, when trees resolve to lay down grit before the snow falls and the music stops. The wood where I live now is a place of pale growth between the frown of reed lines.
Thanks so much, Sarah. You can almost smell the wood in the workroom. So our second poet tonight is Veronica Zundel. Veronica's had poems published in Magma, Snakeskin, Ekphrastic Review, and several anthologies, and has won the Barnett and Cruz Lines prizes. Poetry is featured in Radio 2 and Radio 4 and in an Open University Foundation course. She has an MA in writing poetry from the Poetry School. So if you'd like to unmute Veronica and read us your poem.
Hi. This was inspired by cruising through the Rhine Gorge last May and seeing the Lorelei Rock, which is the location for the fable of the Lorelei with her fatal music. and we were read the poem by Heine, and I felt inspired to do something bilingual in response. I should explain that as it's a villanelle, it's got repeated lines, and in fact, every line that occurs in German is actually translated into English when it repeats. Lorelei. Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. My grief is grey as the raindrops that fall on the flowing Rhine. Ein Märchen aus uralten Zeiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn. I do not know its meaning, the depth of dark I'm in. The more I hear of sunlight, the more I weep and pine. Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. A fable from ancient history has crept beneath my skin. The Lorelei spins her music, her hair a golden twine. Ein Märchen aus uralten Zeiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn. Alone on the wide, wide river, my boat is small and thin. The rocks are hidden in water, a secret serrated spine. Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. I cannot see the danger, the currents that whirl and spin. All I hear is the singing that lures me hook and line. Ein Märchen aus uralten Zeiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn. And will my boat be broken, breached like an old wineskin? Or will I break the enchantment, loose the snaking vine? Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. Ein Märchen aus uralten Zeiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. Thank you. So I think our third poet isn't here unless he's hiding behind a different name. It was going to be Divine Titus, but I can't see or spot him. So I'll now hand over to Diana to introduce her poets.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. I'm going to introduce 4 poets, and first of all, I'm going to introduce Anthony. So Anthony Mair lives in Bexhill, East Sussex. He's published 3 collections of poetry. He was awarded first prize in the 2022 Live Canon International Poetry Competition and was the poet in residence for the Cuckmere Pilgrim Path, 2023-4, leading to a publication of a pamphlet, Behind the Scene. So, Anthony, if you'd like to read your poem for us, please.
Thank you very much. And 2 things. First of all, Diana, thank you for pronouncing Cuckmere correctly. Most people say Cuckmere if they don't know the area. And the other thing, I just want to say, compliment Veronica particularly on that. I do a certain amount of translating myself, and I know how difficult it's a real work of genius, I think, to get the translation rhyming in that structure. I'm terribly impressed. Right. Meanwhile, at the Christmas concert of the Gay Men's Chorus. After 20 years indoors, he found the key lying in his pocket. Daylight outside was so bright he had to shield his eyes. But at night, his blood leapt at the whispered invitations to secret places, where he learnt the code of a sideways glance, a thigh brushing his, a hand that, on a Sunday afternoon, lazily explored his hungry skin. An orchid slowly unfurled petals like a mouth. But he's never travelled in these uplands where the grass lies thick for the wind to blow through. Watching the singers, he envies their loose freedom, the way they casually stroll in a sunlit landscape he's sometimes dreamt of. He sees their white shapes as if through glass, dancing to tunes he's forgotten, and feels his hands rise to stretch through bars he's not seen before. The keys in his pocket, he knows, like a gift waiting to be unwrapped. But here the walls seem safe, and when the warder appears, his face will be as familiar as his own.
Thank you, Anthony, very much indeed. What a poignant poem. I'm now going to introduce our next poet, Shiv. So welcome indeed. Shiv Preet Singh is an American Sikh poet musician in San Ramon, California. Born in Nepal, raised in Delhi and San Jose, he writes across cultures and sound meditation traditions. A former scientist and Wall Street analyst, he now composes music and poetry and supports artists through the Don Anand Foundation, based in California. So welcome, and we'd love to hear your poem. If you can unmute, Shiv, please.
Thank you so much. And thank you for including this poem, Roger, Diana. My poem is it's called Vesper at Lake Tahoe. It was composed while 3 or 4 months ago when I was visiting Lake Tahoe. I was carrying a book with me, a poetry book by Robert Haas, and it had a poem called Faint Music in it. The one thing I'll say before reading the poem is it includes a mention of a raga. A raga is a mode of music in Indian music. And just like major means it could be happier music, minor could be sad music. Each raga has its own emotion. Raga Shri is a night rag with a spooky emotion. So that. Vesper at Lake Tahoe. I bring Haas to the shore like the sun brought us here. The rental kayaks stay tied as if thinking. Rag Shri, night raga, one long note, slips into the pines, a small song under everything. The lake is black glass at the edges. It shows my face, then breaks it into rings. Wind hushes through the trees. In the cabin window, a dead bulb looks holy, a thin halo from a life it used to have. Why wait to be broken? Say it happened already. The plates, the plans, the brave version of me. Crickets keep sawing. Trees keep breathing. First the self, then the hurt, then maybe singing. Let's put the first two in the footnotes tonight. The world keeps burning in the headlines. Maps at war, a fevered planet. Yet here the water cools the thought and hands it back. Prayer can be ordinary. Fold the blanket, pocket a small stone, let the raga ask. This isn't stuck. This is holding still. Thoughts circling like water until it softens. Moon seas drifting on the mind's dark window. Behind me, a couple whispers about headlights. Little bells in the distance. Light, like love, runs out if you leave it on. I switch mine off. The shore comes closer. The night gives back a breath. I sing, and the dark answers. Faint is how hope begins. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely a poem for our times, I think. The third poet I'm going to introduce is Claire Booker. Claire's a retired medical herbalist. Her poetry's appeared in Agenda, Dark Horse, Magma and Stand, amongst others. She was longlisted in the 2023 National Poetry Competition. Her collection of Pocketful of Chalk is out with Arachne Press, and her pamphlet, The Bone That Sang, is with Indigo Dreams. So Claire, please do read your poem.
Thank you very much. It's The Piano Teacher. She smelt of stale biscuits, fingers the colour of custard, sat tandem next to me while a gapped-toothed pupil stared down from the wall, clutching certificates. It's only a matter of time, she promised. Some children take to it quickly, some not. Sharps and flats basked like crocodiles in the shallows, waiting to pull me under. Follow the beat, she intoned, as the metronome clicked its tongue, forced me to sprint, dragging my bloodied stumps. We started on the Bluebell Waltz in May, a slippery little tune with killer teeth. I howled inside at each wrong note, as if I'd killed a bird. We hammered away through June, when she licked her pencil, rechristened the piece Rose Waltz. Flowers bloomed and faded across the score. Mistletoe Waltz arrived for Christmas. Think of the pedal as an extra hand, she suggested. But there wasn't room in my head for 3 hands. From the window, snowdrops were beginning to wink, but she didn't pick up the pencil, just stared intently at our shameful palimpsest of scrawls. Have you thought of telling your mother you'd like to stop? I gazed at her in wonder. I could never have thought of that.
Thank you, Claire. I just love that one. I never did have piano lessons as a child, but I have a horrible suspicion that might have been how would have gone. Thank you so much. And last from my little clutch of poets is Rachel Goodman. Rachel is a poet and a painter, and her first book, Knee to Knee, a collaboration with poet Elvira Roberts, was published by Dialect Press in February 2024. Twice nominated for the Bridport Prize, she's been widely published in many journals and is the 2026 Etchells Fellow at Durham University. Rachel.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you for including me in your clutch. I'm a bit hoarse because I've been suffering from a chest infection for about 3 weeks. This poem combines 3 of my great loves, music, a Hebridean island called Colonsay, and a person. Requiem Colonsay. My ear turns my eye to catch the snipe, drumming as he drops, his larky tail feathers held out wide towards the wetland where black cows hang against the light, notes on a stave humming ostinato to the distant paps of Jura, pale today, but likely they will burn tomorrow when the sun bassoons and lays its long sound red against the wind. A riffle of marram grass leans me towards the house, where a sheep's skull bleached on the windowsill sleeps hard without flesh or hair, carries me on to the sand to catch a strain of shells crusting the sea, which lifts with shallow pools of kelp and falls away. These songs collect in corners, in my elbows and behind my knees, between my fingers and inside my brain, lullabying to the sore reminders. Feather, stone and shell, wing and fleshless bone. On this island, you lay near to me, listening to the trickle of each short night. The rocks held black water. Your breath, which was taken and counted as one of your last, sighed like a moth's wing on my cheek.
Rachel, thank you so much. I just love the last line of that. And in contrast, the larky tail feathers. I think it's a lovely poem. So thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to Mary, who will introduce her clutch of poets.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Roger. And thank you, all you poets, for contributing, for reading, for being here generally. So my 4 poets are Carol Bromley, Judith Wozniak, Neil Douglas, and Charlie Bayliss. I'm going to start with Carol Bromley, or rather Carol Bromley is going to start my section. Carol's based in New York, and she has 3 collections with Smith Doorstop and one from Valley Press. She's won a number of prizes, including the Bridport and Hamish Canham Award and the 2022 Caterpillar Prize for Poems for Children. Her lovely poem, Robert, is on page 46 if you want to follow in the book. So over to you, Carol. Look forward to hearing this.
Thank you very much, Mary. I'm very glad to be in your clutch of poets. I'm very glad to be in the magazine again. Yes, my poem's one of those that Roger was talking about, with how songs can remind you of your teenage years. And this is a kind of a first love poem. Robert, though that's only what I call you now, feeling awkward every time I say it, like I'm addressing a stranger. When I was 16 and you rang and asked me out to the pictures, you gave your school nickname. Later, you wrote to me in Vevey and signed the letter Bobby, your mother's diminutive. It stuck. I used to go round singing, I wanna be Bobby's girl, though now I cringe at the lyrics. It's February when I think of you. I wrote my first poem in February. My first poem that February, you dumped me on Snow Hill Station. I was wearing my red cord coat from Griffin's and a white fur hat. You prized me from your arms, closed the train door, stepped back and receded to just a stick man standing on a platform, waving. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Carol. Thank you so much. It was my father's name, Robert. But I love your rendition of I Want to Be Bobby's Girl. Very moving with and it's so vivid, isn't it, when these moments they just stick with the colour of the red cord coat and the white hat. So brilliant. Thank you so much. My next poet is going to be Judith Wozniak. Now, Judith has a poetry MA from the Poetry School Newcastle. She won first prize in the Hippocrates Prize. Her pamphlets are Patient Watching and Case Notes from Hedgehog Press, and her collection is Making Dolmades in Essex from Vol Books. Rainy Day Afternoon Listening to Joni Mitchell is Judith's wonderful poem, and you can find that on page 13. Over to you, Judith.
Thank you, Mary. And I'm so excited to be included in this wonderful magazine, my favourite. Rainy Afternoons Listening to Joni Mitchell. You're sitting in a wing-backed chair, dressed all in black, your polo neck to your boots, John Lennon glasses, long hair, smoking a cigarette, the slender hands that first beguiled me. I don't know who took the deckle-edged snap, or whose house you were in. Those early days, the flat in Stepney, when you bring me songs to play on my red Decca record player. I'd feed you apples and cheeses, hoping to read a message in the melancholy lyrics. You'd leave a favourite track playing, the empty sleeve, a whiff of tobacco. Your lustrous hair now clipped and thinned, mine the colour of Hoover dust. I still wait to hear your key in the door. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Judith. That was wonderful. I love the way you weave some of the words from that song into the poem, like feed you apples and cheeses. Yeah, it was great. Thank you. So next up we have another GP, because Judith was a GP, and we've got Neil Douglas. So Neil, whose poem appears on page 28, worked as a GP and community paediatrician in the East End, and subsequently did an MA in creative and life writing at Goldsmiths. He's appeared in Ambit, The North, Bath Mag, and the NHS Anthology, among other ones. And he's been commended and placed in several competitions. This poem is an ekphrastic poem after a painting by Edward Burrough, which Neil will probably tell you about. It's called Madame Pastoria Dances Flamenco. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Mary, and thank you very much, Alchemy Spoon, for inviting me to read tonight. It's a great honor, great edition. Madame Pastoria dances flamenco so beautifully, it brings tears to the eyes. Like Eve's snake, her right arm twines, twists at the wrist, lets her fingers rise in rhythm, while her left hand lifts a green skirt to reveal her pumps, red as cut lips, heels that stamp and click, a frenzied beat, working voluptuous flashes from curves of rump and breasts. A man's face fires blanks as his knuckles rap, palm slaps his hollow guitar. An empty casket, no strings for his angel fingers to strum or pluck. No matter, because the music is all in her flex, her tap, her flap, her clap, 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 her gypsy shouts, which snaps and breaks his demon hex. The promise in her gesture, my, oh my, the sex.
So thanks so much, Neil. That was brilliantly done. I loved all the sounds in it, the tap, flap, clap, 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 the snap, etc. It was a brilliant rendition. So thank you. And now on to the last one of my section, which is Charlie Bayliss. And Charlie hails from Nottingham. His poetry's been 3 times nominated for the Pushcart Prize and once for the Forward Prize. His Spanish translations have been commended in the Stephen Spender Prize, and his latest publication is Fuck Poetry from Red Ceilings Press, which came out last year. In his spare time, Charlie plays chess and supports Nottingham Forest, and he edits the wonderful online magazine Anthropocene. Charlie's poem is on page 35 if you want to follow it. It's called A Prism Refracting Light in Multicolour Over a Black Background. Really looking forward to hearing you read it, Charlie.
Hi, hello everyone. What a pleasure to be among poets and reading poems. Thank you to Mary, thank you to Roger, thank you to Diana. I just have a very short poem. A quick note about the title. I don't know if this happened to anyone else, but it came from walking around listening to music on Spotify. Then the internet cut out, and I was left with a text description of the album cover. So as Mary just said, a prism refracting light in multicolor over a black background. That was the album I was listening to, and it's a famous cover, so some of you have probably already worked out what I was listening to. Okay, so here's my poem, and thank you once again. It's a pleasure to be in the issue, and I'm delighted to read and conclude so many wonderful readers. I've enjoyed the evening immensely. A prism refracting light in multicolor over a black background. The sound of an elevator. I do not love this world. Do you? Creaming, then guitar noise. The bass is loud on my phone. Then the synthesizer kicks in. Breathe in the air, sings whoever is singing the song. Not this again. Banging. Constant banging. My wine is finished. My wife is finished. Mama, do not cry. You are in the hills. Thank you.
Charlie, that was brilliant. I love Pink Floyd anyway, but I didn't want to give a spoiler alert before before you read it. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to all my poets. That's Carol, Judith, Neil, and Charlie, and for everybody else who's read so far. Do people want to unmute and give a quick round of applause before I say the next thing?
Yeah.
You all deserve that. In fact, Roger, I was just going to say, if there's anyone else here who is in the issue and who hasn't read, maybe we have time for one or two, since we had a couple of people who weren't able to come. Okay, Jane, I'll just quickly read your bio, if you hold on 2 shakes. So Jane Newbury came to poetry late in life. Her debut collection, Hayden's Trove, was published in 2021, and her 2 books of play rhymes, Big Green Crocodile and The Big Red Dragon, are shortlisted for the Clipper Award. She's married to the polymath Pat and lives in East Cornwall. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you very much. My poem's on page 9 and opens the wonderful collection, and it's called Intermezzo. Old man silhouetted at the piano, framed by cricket ephemera. And as I sit in brushed velour comfort, age fades, and I hear only the outpouring of a young man's passion, telling out a story tenoramente on the Steinway. An intensity only just containing the pain, and I'm crying for what I do not know, moved beyond the here and now, held on a dropping melancholy that tugs at a heartstring marked Brahms. And it hurts to hold it in, but I must. As dear June glides in with a 60s tray, immaculate with milky coffees, napkins, plates, biscuits, comfort. Not even looking at the pianist she loves so intensely, but retiring, pianissimo, beyond my blur of tears.
Thank you, Jane.
Dino
Mahoney is a poet who lives in Greece and London. He won the publication of his 2nd collection, The Great Comet of 1996, Foretells, in the Live Canon Collection 2021. His 1st collection, Tutti Frutti, was a winner of the Sentinel Poetry Book Competition 2019. His recent poems are in Northern Gravy, Poetry Wales, Under the Radar, and High Window. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciating Stockhausen. They assemble in his study, find somewhere to sit. White, shoulder-length Quaker hair, mauve cardigan, black-rimmed spectacles. Dr. Samuel Lilly reads from the record sleeve. Stockhausen mixture for sino-wave generators, ring modulators and orchestra consists of formal units called moments, each of which is recognizable by a personal, unmistakable character. With a sibilant hiss, he slides a vinyl disc from its sleeve, fits it into the turntable, lowers the needle. Gong strikes, a plucked string, muted brass swells. Sitting in a low slipper chair, his wife Rosie takes out her knitting from a hemp tote bag. Ringing cymbals, scraping with cardboard boxes. Amused, amber-eyed, waist-length Cherokee hair Tanya, the daughter, in forest green maid Marian dressed, sits bolt upright on a Macintosh ladderback chair. Isolated attacks with brass and strings. Halo of russet curls, pink t-shirt, canary yellow flares. Donal, her boyfriend, perches on a rustic elm milking stool. Blocks of layered pizzicato, scuffed percussion, waves of undulating tremuli. Uni-friend Noah sits cross-legged on a geometric kilim, head bowed, face hidden by a curtain of lank brown hair. Agitated strings, tremulos, scraped percussion. Yarn wrapped tight round her little finger, Rosie knits and pearls with ferocious fluency. Low background drone sweeping trombone. Donal's long bony arms slowly unfold. Lurching staccato figures. Eyes closed, Noah hums a subsonic mantra. Ring moderators create beating pulsations. Behind a picket fence of splayed fingers, Tanya hides her laughter. Alternating high-low plucked clusters, accelerating, deaccelerating. Arms outstretched like albatross wings, Donal flies, wheels, soars. Taut vibrating high C slowly fades. Through the window, Tanya sees the postman walk towards their door. Silence. Metallic tut of letterbox. Whispery thump of envelope on choir mat.
Thank you so much, Konstantinos. That was brilliant and beautifully read, and it was lovely to see it. I should have said that was on page 22. Okay, so now Tamara, if you're ready. Well, Tamara Evans is from South Wales, and she lives in Sussex. Her poems have appeared in Poetry Wales and Write Out Loud, Milestones Anthology, on buses in London and Brighton, and have been selected for Ink, Sweat and Tears, Webzine, and the next Black Cat Poetry Press Anthology. Look forward to hearing your poem, Tamara. Let me see what page it's on. Page 52.
Thank you. It's called Against the Run of Play, and the film reference, Camgymeriad Gwych, or Beautiful Mistake, is a 2000 film by Mark Evans, and the final verse of my poem incorporates phrases from an old Manx fisherman's hymn, whose title was taken by Malcolm Lowry for his manuscript, Hear Us, O Lord, from Heaven, Thy Dwelling Place. And it's called Against the Run of Play. I'm so embattled, flags, the elderly, slop bucket miasma of hospital corridors, children, drones, mathematically outlandish stranger sex, rubble, mush. My brain licks the inside of my skull like a tongue. Poor me. Reluctant to venture into the interior, I stick to the coast, where I can step from post to post on groins, above shark heads and seething weed like a ballerina, or choose to cast off, where I can hold up as cards to reverse the run of play and maybe alter the outcome of the game. Kingfisher, curlew, redshank, devil's coach horse beetle, plover, turnstone, cormorant, great-crested grebe, where I muffle inside headphones and allow Manic Street Preachers in, 3 bespeckled pebbles by way of my ear canal to my river mouth, where they dissolve with the slow sweetness of sugared almonds. I turn to online clips of James Dean Bradfield and John Cale performing Ready for Drowning in a film called Camgymeriad Gwych. Guitar, piano, voice, voice. I knuckle down, lock in, knowing that at minutes 3:08 to 3:14, my heart's electrical signals will be reset. I will understand the hard and beautiful things we need to accomplish as a species, yes. In the absence or obstinacy of deities, hear us, O Manix, from thy dwelling place in the west. Our little barks are frail, send us thy help.
That's a brilliant reading, and so such a wonderful poem. Thank you very much, Tamara. I shall reveal the secret of issue 18, which is going to be open for submissions from the 1st of February. It feels rather unfortunate telling you this, because I think we disallow people who've just featured in one issue to be in the next, but you could tell all your friends, and hopefully they will. Anyway, it was the idea for the next scene was inspired by the arrival last summer of a strange but beautiful bug in my kitchen. I took a photo and sent it to Roger, who informed me it was a stink bug. So I swiftly moved it on, and got quite alarmed. But then I became quite interested in the etymology of the word bug. It seems it likely stems from the medieval word, which I'll spell out because it's B-U-G-G-E, which I presume is sort of bugger, but without the R. And it denotes a frightening creature or a scarecrow, even the bogeyman, and possibly stems from the Scottish bogle, meaning goblin, or the Welsh bug, meaning goblin. It achieved its insect connotations in the 17th century, and particularly for bed bugs. Since then, its meaning has widened as bugs do. So it could be an insect, a mini beast, a Morecambe Bay crustacean, a contagious illness. In modern times, it's computer jargon, glitches, problems to be solved. It's also an obsession, enthusiasm, such as poetry, or an intercepting device on a telephone. And there's a host of other meanings, including slang for a form of cheating and gambling, as in a metal clip attached to the underside of a table to hold hidden cards. And in addition to that, it's a verb meaning to irritate or suggest protruding eyes. While to bug also can mean to retreat. Oh, to bug out apparently can also mean to retreat or scram, or it did in the Korean War in 1951. Anyway, our submission window is going to be open to as wide an interpretation as you can fly, and it'll be open for the whole month of February. And so I look forward very much to exciting poems. And right now I'm going to hand back to Roger, who's going to close issue 17.
Thanks, Mary, and thanks to all the poets who've read. In fact, if you look at page 109 of the magazine, you'll see where Mary Stinkbug finished up escaping from the corner of page 109. So it's been a great launch. It's a fascinating issue. I really enjoyed putting it together. Thanks to everybody who's turned up, despite the fact that most of you over there on what we in the Isle of Man call the adjacent island have had warnings on your phone about bad weather. So I hope it all passes over without incident, and we look forward to having submissions from you in the issue after the next, but perhaps seeing you at the launch of the next issue. Thanks very much. Have a safe journey home, and good night.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Lovely to see you.
Thank you. It's
Thanks
lovely.
so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for reading. Thank you for your poems.